And we go into this counseling service, and the counselor's name was Phil. And Phil sat us down, and he asked me to tell me a little bit about why we were there. So for the first 10 minutes, I spent just going off on my husband and telling all of his faults and, the problems he had. And Phil looked me square in the eye and he said, "Annette, it's very clear to me that what you have are not marital problems, but spiritual problems." And I was very offended by that, because my husband was a deacon in the church. We served. I cooked meals for people. I kept people's kids. I taught Sunday school. I taught Awana. I did a lot of good things at my church. And anyway, after that, I really can't remember a lot of what he said. But the one thing that I do remember he said after that, he took me back to a place in my life that I really didn't expect to go that day. And that was a time in my life when I was 17 years old, and there was a boy that I wanted his attention a lot, and went to a party that my mother forbade me to go to. But I went, much against her wishes, and at that party there was drugs, there was alcohol, and I partook of all of those things. And I willingly went to the bedroom with this guy that night, and that was something I had never done in the past. And in my mind, I was going to make out, but that was not his intentions. And so he did cross the line, and now we know that as date rape. 30 some odd years ago, that's really not the name we called it, and it was a guy I was pursuing. So for many years I blamed myself for that too, because I did go into the bedroom. But through much counseling, I realized that when you say no, that should be no. And anyway, this day, telling Phil this part of my life, he said, he looked at me and he said, "You do know that truth is not what you feel, but what God's Word says. And God's Word says that if we confess our sin, He is faithful and just to forgive us our sin." And all I can say to you is I met God face to face. And I've always said that was kind of my road to Damascus experience, like Paul. It was my I-75 North experience. But I remember, I guess my eyes were closed, but I remember seeing a picture of Jesus Christ on the cross, and something spoke to my heart very audibly. Nobody else could have heard it, but I certainly did. And I believe it was God. And God said to me, He said, "Annette, I sent my son to die for that abortion." And it was at that point I began to weep openly. Loud, with loud just weeping noises. And I was saying, he died for me. And my husband looked at me. He was driving the car, and he looked at me and he said, "Annette, I thought you knew that." So do I believe that was the first time I entered into a relationship with Christ? Yes, I do, because I knew that Jesus was real. I totally believed that, but so did the demons. They know that. But what I did not do, that I think the missing link, was I didn't accept what Jesus had done. I felt like I needed to add to it. And I still work. I love my work now. I love working for the Lord and doing things in the church and for other people and loving people like Christ has loved me. And but it's different now, because I do it out of a thankful heart and not out of a sense of responsibility, or somehow maybe if I do enough, it'll get better and the shame will go away. Only He could have taken away that shame.